What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line of the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're back today with another episode of the DeAgostini Millennium Falcon from Fanhome. I said that quick, and I got it right the first time. And we're back today with stage 42, and I guess it would be Dark Equipment Part 2. I don't even know how long ago this was. This was probably back in March or April. It may have been February. I don't know. I can't remember. I could probably look back, but I did this, and I followed the instructions, and I got to be real. Looking at it, it doesn't look too bad, but yeah, no, I can do better. I was using my old airbrush at this point. I just didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have any proper weathering equipment. And so in stage 42, we're going to be taking this whole panel and, putting it off to the side. We're going to get to getting these all assembled here very, very soon, actually. But then what we're going to be doing is taking our next maintenance bit and getting all of our greeblies put on. And we're going to go ahead and paint it and get both of these kind of matched up and nice and weathered up. So let's go ahead and get building, shall we? All right, so where we're going to start actually is by just going ahead and dropping our NATO black over the top of this real fast, just to take down whatever painting I had done. As we let that dry, I want this one to be the first one to worked on, so as we let this dry up, we'll go ahead and get this unpackaged. We'll get all of our greeblies hooked up, and then we'll come back and start working, and then get our, our base coat on here, and then we'll start working on our weathering over here, and vice versa. Let's go ahead and get started with getting our NATO black mixed up here and into our airbrush. I'm going to thin it down with just a little bit of the Army Painter airbrush medium, my preferred method of thinning down. And we're going to be creating quite a bit of this. I say as I get stuff all over my workbench. Like, I don't mind getting stuff on the workbench, but if I can avoid, like, having paint pile up, trust me, I'm going to. As much as possible. So we're just going to go ahead and slide that over there. There we go. Nice. All right, we got plenty of our paint inside. Let's go ahead and get that set off there. And like I said, I like to use the airbrush medium from Army Painter as my airbrush medium. And I don't put too much in here. We just put a little bit in to help kind of loosen it up a little bit. You want the consistency of milk. Ugh. It's a weird word. I don't know why it's a weird word to me, but when you say the consistency of milk, it sounds very weird to me. So, now that I've made it weird for all of us, let's go ahead and get started painting, shall we? So, we have it set. Where's my pressure at? So I have an adjustable pressure gauge here, so I'm just going to go ahead and get us down. Probably feels about 18 right there, so there we go. Yep, that's about right. Let's go ahead and get painting. Now, I honestly don't know. I can't remember if these are Vallejo paints on here. Like, I really, really don't know. So, when all else fails, Tamiya for the win. The thing that I really like about the Tamiya is, as it's an alcohol base, it does dry very, very fast. And we're just going to try to get into all the little corners and nooks and crannies. Just try to take down some of that color that we put on there. I believe it was... Yeah, this was the Vallejo. So we got a urethane base down. That's fine. I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Yeah, it was a Vallejo black, I believe. And then, what else did I use? I think it was a mid-gray. Okay. So, now that that is basically painted and ready to roll, I'm not going to bring it up to the camera to show you. I am, however, going to move this off to the side. Get my mouse out of the way here. Here we are. Now, let's go ahead and get our stage unpackaged and get our parts put together. So let's go ahead and grab our hobby knife. And it is kind of weird only doing one stage here, but being that I'm trying to blend both, both equipment pieces, basically doing the same thing, batching like activities. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, I honestly, I'm totally fine with taking care of it this way. Just one stage works because we have some big episodes coming up here very soon. So here is our hull panel, and this is going to go with all the rest. And we are, I believe, within an episode or two. I've got the next like 5 or 6 episodes planned out for this build right now. I think we're an episode or two away from putting all of our hull panels on, and I'm really excited about that. And getting ready for paint. I am super excited about that. So we're gonna go ahead and set that off to the side. We have our sprue for today, and there are all of the different greeblies, and you know, feels maybe a little familiar. Only I don't recognize any of the parts, of course, but all the just different Millennium Falcon greeblies that we get to put on is so cool. Just a much, basically almost double the size of the DeAgostini, or excuse me, the Perfect Grade Falcon from Bandai. So there is our greeblies. Here is our maintenance pit, and there's the detail inside, and it looks like they tried. Like, I don't even know why they did that. Like, you can see there's like a little bit of schmutz down here in the corner. It looks like more like dust. I don't even know why they tried. And then they provide us with a tool that will help us bore out some screws if we need help. I think that I might be able to approach using 3-in-1 oil for that, but this does have a small tapping head on there. So I'm going to go ahead and set this off in my little tool kit right off here, off to the side. If I can't remember where it is, remind me. You guys will be able to help me. All right. Such a goof. All right. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab all the tools we're going to need. I'm going to go ahead and grab my eraser glass file. And we're going to go ahead and grab a pair of single-bladed nippers. And let's go ahead and start assembling. As soon as I had a bunch of these. I've been building models all day, and I don't know where. There it is. Like, I get really messy with each build. Like, if you guys see me on stream, it gets pretty crazy. And so I got a bunch of these things laying around, and I really love using these for CA. So let's go ahead and find a well to put them in. And if you don't recognize these are the little clamshell pieces that you get with the Enterprise D. And these are the pieces that you get, the die-cast hull panel pieces. It's very cool. And grab my last little tool here, which is going to be my pin vise with the just craft wire on there, which is what I use for my glue application. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to grab part number 1 here, and we will just kind of roll through. Like, I got to let that thing dry completely real quick, and so I have no problem with that. Part number 1 is going to be whatever this transfer case is, or whatever it is. If that is a tank part, please let me know. I'm super curious. I know these models are full of car and tank parts, so it could be any number of those things. I'm just going to go ahead and clean up our gates real fast. Cannot recommend if you are into this sort of thing. These files are the best out there. There's just no doubt about that. Okay, so I had to kind of look at the instructions, and this piece fits through here just like that. And so we want us to test fit it to make sure it all fits. It is a bit of a press fit connection, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a spot of glue right here. And just use my pin vise. Get some glue just like that. It's kind of a cool little piece. And we're going to go ahead and press that in there. And press that all the way in. And that's what that looks like. That's very cool. All right, let's grab part number 2. And part number 2 is going to be, this particular set of tubes, but this tube right there. I'll get that off of our sprue. And then get these cleaned up real fast. Do be careful when sanding. You probably want to support. So what I'm doing is I'm holding my finger, my middle finger, underneath the greebly here, and just using it as a support so that we don't bend it or break it. And the same thing here. I'm going to kind of push up with my forefinger. You can see that there's a bit of a gate right there. Quickly sand that down. Nice and clean. Fantastic. And then number 2 is going to fit into place. Ah, very interesting. So it's going to fit in. Oh my God. That one's going to go into place. Where does it go? All the way down into these 2 slots right here. So you got these 2 little lug holes right there. You got 1 and 2. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and use my pin vise and get into each one of those slots. Grab my tweezers. Find the thing on my mat. And then get these both put into place. So one of the things that I really enjoy about this model is you're actually taking things off of sprues, gluing them in, kind of actual model work, which is really, really cool. So there we are. All right, so we're going to grab part number 3, which is going to be this tube right here. There we are. It's got this weird looking skull thing here on the very end. Not you, Chase. And there we are. Not saying you're weird looking or anything. Not saying, just saying. There we are. There's one, and where was the other connection? There it is. Nice and clean. These things take down gates super fast. Okay. So number 3 is going to fit in just like this. So we're going to test fit this right here. Just like that. And it's going to connect into this hole and that hole right there. So that would be that hole and that hole. So let's go ahead and grab some glue. There we are. And into each one of their slots. There we are. Fantastic. That looks great. Now we're going to grab part number 4, which I believe is going to be this one here, which looks like the side of a gun, if I'm being real. And do be careful when trimming this off. This is the gate right here, and then the part itself does have a bit of a tube. So do be careful with that. All right. Get these cleaned up. There we are. And then this piece is going to fit in to these 2 slots right there with these 2 lug holes, right, or those 2 lugs right there, with the bigger one facing towards the back. Get some CA into our spots. Fit that into place. All right. And just like that. That looks great. Okay. So now let's go ahead and grab part number 5. And that one is going to be this funny looking one right there. We're going to get this cleaned up real fast. Do be careful when using these racers, though. They will polish up your piece very quickly. And that one is going to sit in this lug hole right there, and then with this tube fitting in right there. So once again, just grab some glue. And that one's going to fit in just like that. There we go. Well, that's really good. I got to say, like, it's not as great as detailed as the perfect grade, which is crazy because this is even a bigger scale, but this still does look really, really good. All right, so let's grab part number 6, which is going to be these two little things right here. Get these cleaned up. Always try to leave a little bit of a gate just so you can clean up your parts. There we go. You don't want to leave any stress cuts behind. All right. That one's taken care of. And then that one is going to fit into that triangle slot right there. And as this piece is the same, doesn't matter which way it goes, it doesn't matter which way it goes. So we're going to set that down. Grab our part. Get it set into place. Oh, God. I've been saying it for a while. I need to get some new tweezers. I think that's my new next upgrade. All right. And there you are. Very cool. And we're going to grab part number 7, which is going to be this long tube right here that has the 2 connections. Go ahead and get this cleaned up. And do be careful with these little tubes. They can be a real pain in the butt to sand. I can't believe we're even doing this on the perfect grade one, which is they're twice as small. There we are. All right, that one looks good. And that one is going to fit into place. Kind of funny like, isn't it? Yes. So that one is going to fit in. There are 3 little connectors right here. You got 1, 2, and 3. That is going to go into 1 there in the corner, 2, and 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Or is it up top? Nope, I got that right. And then it connects up down below here. So I'm going to just go ahead and quickly get that before everything seals in. Right there. That looks great. One thing I like about large scale models is you can really get some good detail in there. And that does look really good, I gotta say. All right, and I think we're about to grab our last piece off the sprue, and that's gonna be part number 8. And I always say it, but it's always gonna be true. It doesn't matter how big or small it is, getting rid of the sprue is really awesome. It really is. One step closer to the model being done. Okay, let's go ahead and get this cleaned up, and we're almost ready to get our base coat down on this one. So this episode's not going to be too crazy long. I was a little worried about it, but these parts are much easier to put in. This maintenance bay is, or maintenance pit, or whatever you want to call it, is a lot easier to build than that one was. All right. And then finally, this one is going to fit in, and I believe it's going to go right here. Is that right? Nope. This tube. I see. So there is a little hole right there, and then you see the hole right up there in that corner. That's where these 2 go. Get a little bit of CA in there. And in there. Grab our tweezers. Get everything slotted into its place. Hold that for just a second. I'll be right back. All right, so there it is. And that maintenance well, maintenance pit, whatever you want to call it, is finished. And so I get to close the magazine. Let's go ahead and get all of our parts cleaned up and out of the way, or all of our tools, so to say, as we're not going to need them anymore. We're just going to go ahead and get our base coat down, and then we're going to start weathering this side, which I'm really looking forward to. As a reminder, never burn this glue off the end of the tip. You always want to take your hobby knife and scrape it off. All right, so that one is nice and dry now at this point. Yes, it is. Fantastic. Let's just go ahead and make sure our paint is still rolling. It should be. Certainly is. I love the Iwata. It's a fantastic airbrush. All right, let's start painting. I'm going to get down along the sides a little bit. I want to try to keep the colors consistent. I can tell you this right now, that this is painting so much nicer than the last time I did this with an airbrush. My last airbrush was kind of trash. Went ahead and jacked up my pressure a little bit, just so I can get a little bit more of a spray down, more of a coverage. That's the beautiful thing about the Iwata, and there's no travel stop. As you throw more pressure at it, you can do a little bit more things with it. Throw down more paint, get it thicker, whatever you need. In this case, I want it to go down a little bit thicker so I can get it down into these recesses, but not so thick that it's going to cause the paint to glop and not want to dry properly. We don't need a whole lot of it, but we need enough to cover everything. Model does seem like they did paint it, so I do kind of treat it as a little bit of a base coat. Obviously, when we get around to doing our main paint color, obviously it's going to be the insignia white, but we're also going to be putting down a nice layer of Mr. Surfacer primer. Okay. So now I'm just going to kind of open up the taps a little bit here. Get our final coat on. Get along the outside. Not that I'm too worried about it, but do want to make sure that they're consistent on both sides. And instead of like pulling up to the camera, I'll go ahead and just zoom in and show you guys how that turned out. Make sure we're covering all the rest here. Yep, we are good. And there it is. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Pull that up. And there it is. It has a little bit of hard time focusing. The contrast might be a little high or low. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, that's what that turned out like. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is get my airbrush cleaned, and I will be right back. All right, so that is our other one is set off to dry right now. What we're going to go ahead and do is bust out some of our Tamiya Weathering Master Kit, and specifically we're going to use C, D, and F today, and I want to basically come through and brush a bunch of color onto here. So let's go ahead and start. Oh, let's go with some low-hanging fruit real quick, and let's grab some silver. And we're going to go ahead and grab one of our eye makeup applicators. That's right. This, my friends, is eyeshadow, if you guys didn't know already. You obviously wouldn't want to use it for eyeshadow, but in principle, and these are eyeshadow applicators. So I'm going to go ahead and just brush this on, load it up, and there's a little bit of the gunmetal from next door, which totally makes me happy. Actually, I want to get a little bit of that darker color in there. So get it loaded up like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run over the top of each one of these pipes to give the impression that it's a little bit of metal underneath. Just like that. I'm going to rub them entirely everywhere. Obviously, these are supposed to be nice and dirty. You obviously want to pick them and pick your spots and pick your places and think about like how things would actually like look, because space is real dirty, my friends. And once again, I haven't grabbed any more pigment yet, so you don't really need to grab a whole lot. But just think about where it would make sense and where it would make sense to you. There's not a right or a wrong answer here. That's the best thing about this. And now I'm just going to kind of grab any spots where I think that it would make sense to have a little bit of silver on. If you don't like it, you can always go through and change up. And we're just dropping a little bit of color here and there. And then let's go ahead and run along the entire edge of this beam here. Just like that. Catch that one as well. A little bit along the outside here. Don't know how much of this is actually incorporated in the model, but we're going to weather it anyway. And just like that, it gives it just an automatic level of depth, better than anything that I got out of the previous thing, and that took me all of an extra minute to do. So, now, let's go ahead and offset some of that silver with a little bit of our gunmetal, which is the one that's right next door to the silver here. And then once again, there are some of the flecks of the silver in here, which I'm glad to incorporate in to our gunmetal. Now, as you saw, I didn't have to add a whole lot of pigment last time that I did this. It was just the first time. So do get a good amount in there and just know that it's going to be enough to be able to get whatever you need. Just like that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some of those spots. I want to pull it down a little bit. Okay. Just pull that silver down. Give it the sense of depth to it. Catch some spots where we didn't necessarily catch the silver last time. Because this is flake, so it's going to create that a bit of a flaky sort of appearance. And this really is helping take down some of that silver. We want the silver, we want that underlying brightness. But now, as you can see, it's kind of smoothing and pulling and giving the sense that some of the metal is a little bit more worn. And used. Now I'm going to go down in here into this grate. Excellent. Now, you can see here, this is just going to take down a little bit high silver point. Leave the highlights behind, but then just kind of dulls it down. That is excellent. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this this one off to the side. You want to, these are not cheap, but not expensive either. So you kind of want to hold on to them if you can. I am going to grab just a tiny little bit of orange rust here. And I'm going to just go over to the corner here. And you can really overdo this. And I'm a little nervous about what I'm about to do. But I think this is going to turn out well. And I want to find a spot where it would make sense for something to be a little rusty. And I think that's going to be right here around this little pipe right here. It's going to kind of brush this in a little bit. Just right around there. Yeah. Very subtle, but it really does kind of give the impression that there's a little bit of rust there. Yeah. Just grab a little bit more of this. And I'm going to kind of lean into this a little bit. Get some rust under that pipe. I want to think about where some pipes are touching. Right over here in the corner. Maybe just a little bit of rust, a little bit of color. Right here. Like anywhere where we're having a slight connection between two metal pieces. Just like that. And grab one little more bit here in the end. And once again, like I said, that's going to be enough for that color. You can really overdo it. You feel like you can do a whole lot. But once again, the art of weathering is subtle and layers. So, let's, man, just, it looks really good. So now, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and grab some of our copper here. We're almost done. What I'm going to be doing is pulling the oil stain from D, and that's it. I'm going to grab a little bit of our copper here. And what I'm going to do with the copper is I'm going to go along these pieces right up here. Want to just kind of give these the impression that these are, let's like a different sort of metal. So we're going to get into the copper. The copper is a very generous lover. But this pigment comes up real nice, real easy. So what I like to do is get it all on here and then give it a blow off. Am I right? But it's going to take off a bunch of that extra pigment that's sitting along the top. And what I want to do, just very subtly, run along the top here, and you're going to see that it's starting to pick up some detail, and I'll bring it up to the camera here in just a second. But these pieces are a little... The reason why I wanted to do this here is these pieces have basically like built-in rivets, and we're not counting them, but I want to see them. So this is just a really cool effect, something that I've wanted to do this for a while now once I got these weathering pencils, or these weathering kits here, the Weathering Master Kit. But this does a great job of highlighting those rivets that popped out. And you can see there, let's go get a little bit closer to the camera. As you can see there, there's kind of like little rivets built in and what have you. And that's it for the bronze. Let's go ahead and bring in our last little bit, which is going to be the oil stain. And what this stuff is a little bit thicker. It's not quite like the other stuff. It's a little thicker, and like the copper, or the brass, excuse me. Is it brass or copper? It's copper. Like that, you want to also take it and blow off some of the excess. Now, where I want to oil stain it is just a little up here on the top of these decks. And what the oil stain is, it kind of gives this brownish sheen a little bit. And if you lean into it a little bit, it'll give more of it. But I kind of wanted to just give this greasy appearance to our deck panels right up here. The things that you can see, the tops of everything else that I didn't really touch so much. I just started touching. And we're just going to use this to kind of pull down some of those highlights. And there it is. Very subtle, but a very, very, very big improvement over what we got last time. And I'm feeling something here real quick. So what I want to do is kind of lean into some silver here. Really just kind of want to make this piece silver. I was looking at it and I'm just like, that's got to be silver. There it is. So now what I'm going to do, my airbrush is empty. There's nothing in it, but I got a little bit of a charge left in it. I'm just going to blast some of that powder out of there. And there it is. Guys, that looks so much better. I am so much more happy with how that turned out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Let's see if we're ready. We're almost there. So I'm going to continue to let this dry for just a couple minutes, and I will be right back. All right, everything's nice and dry. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So let's go ahead and start with our silver. We'll go ahead and get loaded up again here real quick. Maybe catch a little bit of that gunmetal next door. we are. That's a nice little bead on the end there. And then let's go ahead and hit some of the pipes. Once again, remember, we're going to be doing this in several different layers, so we don't need to be super precise. Just kind of get some color on there where you want it, where you think it should go. Anywhere else you think you should get some silver down. And we'll take all this down, remember. Anywhere it makes sense. Okay, so there's our silver. Okay, then we're going to come over to the other side here, grab our gunmetal. And just get a nice little bead like that. And what I'm going to do is directly over the spots where I just went, and then maybe a little bit beyond. Just kind of pull some of that color down and then add a little bit on the other side. Kind of gives it this depth of color. Definitely implies that it's metallic and that it's metal, and I imagine that this whole piece right here is going to be gunmetal. Why not? Ah, that looks great. Let's go ahead and do that piece too here. Sucker for a good time. There we are. We're going to grab a little bit more of our gunmetal here. And once again, just taking down any of that excess silver that we brought into the model here. Just toning it down a little bit, adding a depth of color. Okay. So there we are. That looks good. Okay. Next up, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of our rust. And just remember that this stuff is tough, so we're going to go ahead and blast a little bit of that off here. And then I'm going to find a couple spots. I want to highlight this piece right here in the middle. And I want this to be a particularly rusty piece. And a rusty pipe. All of it, right through here. I just want it to be super rusty right through there. Just like that. I'm going to grab a little bit more rust. And then where you might make sense, around some of these connections. I mean, who knows if they're, vaporators or who knows what. I just dropped a made up on the spot vaporator. Is that a evaporator? No, it's evaporator, but I called it vaporator. Making up words. There we go. All right. That one's done. Let's get that put off to the side. Next up, we're going to go ahead and do our... we're going to do bronze, aren't we? Where do we do? We got bronze and oil here. Do you have any things worth putting bronze on? We do, actually. So let's go ahead and grab just a little bit of our bronze here. And where that's going to go is just right there in the corner on that piece right there. If you just rub it across your painted surface, it really does kind of give the look of just being metal. And a couple other spots. Like there's just a little bit of this bronze on here. Copper or whatever. And we're just going to use it to add a little bit of depth to all of our weathering. And then, why not, around the edge here. And there we are. Just like that. Nice and simple. Now, that one's done. Let's go ahead and grab our oil. And then I'm just going to rub this along some spots. Kind of give the impression that it's a bit of a grimy deck in certain places. And where those places are, it doesn't really matter to me. Just wherever you want to find a spot for it. And pull down a little bit of the high colors there. and just gives us a nice, greasy, dirty bottom. Very nice. All right, let's go ahead and blast it out with our face. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and toss that one. The oil ones tend to waste them. That's done. And there it is. Man, that one turned out really good as well. So let's go ahead and bring both of them back into play, and let's go ahead and review what we've done today. All right, so there we are, and two very different maintenance bays. They both were kind of highlighted and weathered in different ways. I feel that I got a much better look out of this side, and this side was, although much easier, I really like the detail that we get in here, and just the overall look of both these maintenance bays. Man, I'm super excited to get these both into the models. So that's what I got for you today. My friends, we are quickly marching on towards getting all of our hull panels assembled. And in the next episode, my friends, we are going to be basically working with a bunch of greeblies and putting together some of our hull panels. We're going to be kind of like doing some work because in a couple episodes, all of those hull panels are going to get on, and we're going to have to be taking some time to do some painting. So that's what I got for you today, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, and I think that's pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world where we happen to be. And just remember, my friends, that this is the way.